Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial, and today I have a very different video for you, and the reason for that is because all of my exposure right now is currently in bank call options. The market bounced down today, and the reasoning for that is because of an increase in coronavirus cases. With that bounce down, my expectation is that I am hopeful tomorrow we may see a comeback. It depends on the overnight news associated with the coronavirus, as well as when we're looking at what stocks are moving, we're seeing a very similar expectation to what we had in the pre-coronavirus lead up, which was again travel stocks or anyone who may be impacted by closing down facilities. So all that being said, I am down pretty heavily on the bank stocks. We'll see how that play works out tomorrow going into the stress test. So with that being said, and the market moving down, and most of my advice for those stocks are currently in play at this point, I wanted to share something a little bit different, which is a little bit different of a video than I would normally do, which is 3 books that as I read them, they had an immediate impact on my life, and I wanted to go and read them or share that information with all of you, as well as these are books that I have put out on my LinkedIn profile, or I have just put out elsewhere, and I'm a huge advocate for the 3 books I'm going to share. So this is a very different video. It is not necessarily investing specific. Think of it as life or just sales, wealth building. So with that being said, as always, if you find this content helpful, please leave a like down below. So let's dive into, these are 3 books that I believe that everyone should read, particularly if you're involved in business or you have a habit of wanting to accrue wealth and make money. So the first of these books is going to be Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Grant Cardone, he has somewhat of an abrasive personality, I would say. He is a very strong, dominant personality type, a go-getter, and he will throw that in your face. He likes to make money, and he wants to be that guy. He makes a practice of saying he wants to have haters, and I respect him. I don't necessarily want to emulate him in my day-to-day life, but the guy is a maverick, and the dude knows how to sell. So one of the books that I would recommend to anyone who's involved in the business world is please get involved in reading Sell or Be Sold. So just my high level overview, or at least 3 key points that I walked away from, is that this book tells the reader that you need to equate value to money, and you need to make sure that you can convey that to others as opposed to time to money. And I think that this is super important for everyone out there who thinks that I am going to go get a 9-to-5 job and I may stay an extra hour, or I may come in early and they'll pay more. And I think it's important to note that that's not always the case, and you may spend an extra 2 hours at the office every day, and if at the end of the year you get a raise, but it's $2,000 more than you were anticipating from your $3,000 raise, that is fantastic, but you've also spent an extra 10 hours a week every single week there. Maybe you've foregone vacation time. So instead of approaching it with the mentality of if I work longer, I'll make more, I approach things with the idea of if I create value, I will earn more. And that was a huge concept for me because I have always been someone who wanted to work and wanted to work more, and stylizing that effort and that workflow into working towards a more valuable asset has been huge for me. And that leads into this next step of the idea that sales is evil is one that most people grow up with, from the idea of like the used car salesperson from the 1970s that we'll see on TV shows or we'll see and read about in books and comics. I think that that is something that the book conveys, is this is where you can make a lot of money, is when you convey that value. So I think it's super important. And even if you are not involved in sales or your title does not say sales, you still have to sell a concept, an idea, or you as a person. Everything has to do with the idea that you are going to be selling something, and you need to embrace that and learn it. And I think that that's super important to be able to look at whatever it is you're going to do and see, how can I convey my message? How can I get this person to buy into my dream? or this collective goal that we may have. And I think that's super important and an idea that I want to share. And lastly, the idea of don't compete, dominate. And this is something that I think is super important because everyone goes into this with the idea, and you'll see some themes throughout these 3 books that I'll share, but the idea that I need to be doing X, Y, Z because it'll help me be the next Amazon. Or this will help me be, particularly in the YouTube space, this will help me be this YouTuber. And the idea that you need to copy and emulate every single person, I think there's value there, but you also need to go in with the mentality of this is my set goal, this is how I'm going to accomplish it, and then see what works instead of why am I doing this if that's not my style. For example, I am a very extroverted person and I like to share my opinions. I like to push my ideas. And if I go onto a YouTube type of platform, or if I go out and onto any of my social media and try and persuade people by being someone that is not genuine or not who I am, that will come out and be shown that way. So the idea of don't compete, dominate is take what you want, put it into the industry, put it into your idea, and go and dominate that industry. And I just love that phrase, love that idea. I've got it on a sticky note right next to my work desk. And the idea behind this is I am not here to just be the same as everyone else, be the same as my peers. I want to own this industry. So this is a great book. I would highly recommend it. You can find it on Amazon, and it is just fantastic. And what I'll do is I'll drop these 3 links from Amazon into the YouTube comment section below. I don't get anything from it, but it is just so worthwhile. So go check it out. Let me know. Next up on my list is going to be a book called The World is Flat. And no, this is not a flat earther type of book. I one time was reading this in the airport and I got funny looks and I would have the conversation. But this is a little bit of an older book, so make sure that you're getting the revised edition or at least the updated one. And this book is all about the idea that with the introduction of technology, we are no longer going to be just competing with someone next to us in a classroom. And this was something that took me a while to understand, and I wanted to convey this idea set to other people because I went to a small college, I went to a small high school, and my first job right out of college was with a smaller company. So that being said, I always thought, well, I'm competing with the person next to me. And it wasn't until I realized that I was competing with the entire industry, with the entire school system. From a college perspective, you're competing with high schoolers across the United States. In the job market, you're competing with job seekers across the world. And it's important to recognize that because it should motivate you to realize that I can work anywhere I want to, but at the same time and in the same breath, other people are going to be wanting those jobs and wanting that spot at school or wanting that place on the soccer team. As someone who played for a collegiate soccer team, one of the biggest introductions at playing at that level was the fact that I was not competing with my teammates from school or from my club team anymore. I was competing with players who were a lot better than me that came from all over the United States and in some cases overseas. So it was a huge awakening, and this book just does an excellent job of explaining that. And that's kind of the first point there. The second is something that I think is important, whether we're looking at it from just this book perspective or your overall idea, is you need to look to where the world is going to go, not necessarily where it is today. I think what a lot of people will do, particularly in a school system type of environment, is you go to school to learn concepts that are really no longer pertinent, or on the other side of things is they are saying, hey, we have Amazon and we are going to use them as our case study because they are a great company and they do a great job. Meanwhile, at Amazon headquarters, they're planning on what they're going to do 3, 5, 10, 20 years from now. And the idea that I need to emulate what's going on now versus I need to perfect the future is something that we need to be conscientious of and focus on that approach. And lastly, they talk about maximize your strengths and outsource your weaknesses. And I think that this is huge because if we're going to be outsourcing our weaknesses, we need to recognize them. So something that I mentioned when we were talking about sell or be sold is I recognize my strengths. And one of my strengths is that I am a very extroverted person. I love to talk to people. I love to communicate with people. And one of my weaknesses is that I am not very good at attention to detail, as we can see by the fact that my logo is blocking outsource your weaknesses. So it's things like that where, again, I'm going to be genuine. I'm going to show you guys how it's not always perfect the first iteration, but I want to show you that I can outsource those when that time is appropriate. Or in the workforce, one of the things that I am very good at is talking to people or being on the phone with calls and what have you. And one of the things I learned very early on is I could outsource what I am bad at, which is some of that attention to detail or some of those calls with clients that we just don't necessarily always marry up at a 1-to-1 ratio, then I no longer have to do that and the company overall performs better. And I think it's important to recognize what you're good at and to focus on that. So lastly, the last book that I would recommend is called Building a StoryBrand, and this is by Donald Miller. If you are someone who is a entrepreneur, or you would consider yourself an intrapreneur, which is someone who is very innovative and they work in a single company, this is single-handedly one of the best books I have ever read for someone in that mindset, as well as Donald Miller has a podcast called Building a StoryBrand, and the guy is phenomenal. He and his team are just doing wonders. And everything in his book is a basis for his company and what they do. Please, please, please go check it out. You will, if there's one book that I would say from these three that I would read or someone who I would get in touch with, it's Donald Miller and Building a StoryBrand. And the three things that he really talks about in his book is you need to be the guide, not the hero. And this is something that hit super home for me, and that was I don't have to solve every problem. I don't have to be the one performing every solution. So even when we're talking about stocks and bonds and the markets, I love the fact that I can come onto a platform like a YouTube or go into work and have these conversations where I feel like I'm pointing people in a direction to where they can make a material difference to the end of the year, their personal bottom line, that they can walk away with more money than if I had not been there. However, at the end of the day, they're the one making decisions. They're the ones making money. So they're the hero, and I'm just pointing them in the right direction. And that is a huge concept, and one that I think all of us can focus on is we don't have to always be the hero. We can just be the helper. So just ruminate on that one for a while. Think about it. I love that concept. Love that idea. The next piece that I want to highlight is always have your call to action available. So the idea that you can influence something is huge. So for example, a call to action could be make sure you hit the subscribe button or make sure you hit the like button down below. And I say that partially in jest, but also please do it. But the idea that there's always this idea or this mission that you can utilize is a big deal, because on your day-to-day basis, you have an idea of what people should be thinking about you, what you want your brand to be. And if you can constantly reiterate your call to action, whether that is go buy this stock, go make more money, make the world a better place, if you can reiterate that, then people are going to do that. So that being said, I'm going to reiterate, hit the like button down below. Lastly, I want to encourage everyone, and the book really helped me with this, is be able to tell your story so that you can share your purpose. So it's one thing for me to say, hey, everyone, I want to make sure that everyone has the capability to go make a lot of money. That is my purpose. I want everyone to go out and just absolutely kill it. I want them to be financially literate. I want them to make more money. I want them to influence their community. However, if I tell the story of how I got here and how I am seeking to encourage that purpose or seek that purpose, then it's going to hit home a lot better. And maybe one day I'll pull that video out and make that call to action, make that this is what I want to do with this platform, with my job, with my life, and we can do that at another point in time. but I absolutely love the way that this book builds this up. So please check it out. Please check out the other 2 books as well. And if you found this content helpful, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you for your time today, and I appreciate all of you for making it this far. Thanks. Talk to you all later.